Cube of Convergence. As Seraphina and her companion ventured further along the paths woven by fate, they came upon a peculiar scene. It was a vast open plain bathed in hues of pink and purple, where the air shimmered like the edges of a dream. A crowd had gathered, their faces lit with an otherworldly glow as they gazed upward at a colossal floating cube, suspended in the sky like an impossible artifact. The cube pulsated with a soft golden light, its surface shifting to reveal fragmented reflections of countless lives, scenes of joy, despair, love, and loss. It wasn't merely an object, it was alive, emanating a hum that resonated deep in Seraphina's chest, as if calling to her. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the hum. Her companion, the boy with golden eyes, studied the cube with a somber expression. "The Cube of Convergence," he replied. "It's where realities intersect, a nexus where all possibilities collide. Those who stand beneath it are drawn here by its power, though most don't understand why." Seraphina noticed the crowd murmuring in awe, their hands outstretched as though hoping to touch the cube's radiance. But the cube remained distant, hovering just out of reach. The scarf around her neck began to glow faintly, its threads vibrating in harmony with the cube's energy. The boy turned to her. "This isn't just a meeting point for worlds, it's also a test. Only a weaver can interact with the cube, can mend the fractures it holds." Seraphina's heart raced. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. "What happens if I fail?" The boy hesitated. "The fractures will spread, tearing the fabric of existence apart. The crowd you see, they're fragments, echoes of people who were lost to the void. They wait for the cube to decide their fate." Taking a deep breath, Seraphina stepped forward, weaving through the crowd until she stood at the base of the glowing cube. The hum grew louder, more insistent, and the scarf began to unravel, its threads rising into the air like golden filaments. As she raised her hand, a beam of light shot from the cube, engulfing her. In an instant she was no longer on the plane but within the cube itself, standing in an infinite space where time seemed to stand still. Around her, fragments of realities floated like shards of glass, each one showing a different world. She saw glimpses of herself, one version standing on a mountaintop, another battling shadows with her scarf, and another sitting in a quiet room, lost in thought. A voice echoed from the void. "Weaver, you hold the threads of fate. The cube presents you with a choice, restore balance or unravel the possibilities. What will you weave?" Seraphina's mind raced. The fractured realities represented lives, dreams, and choices that had diverged and splintered over time. She realized that her journey had led her here not just to mend the worlds, but to understand the beauty in their differences. "I will weave unity without erasing individuality," she declared, her voice steady. "Each thread has a place, each story a purpose. The fractures don't need to be erased, they need to connect." The fragments around her began to glow, their edges softening as they drifted closer. With a deep breath, Seraphina extended her hands, guiding the golden threads of her scarf to link the shards together. The cube began to shift, its surfaces shimmering as the fractured realities merged into a harmonious tapestry. Outside, the crowd watched in awe as the cube's glow intensified, bathing the plain in golden light. The murmurs quieted, replaced by a profound sense of peace as the echoes of lost lives began to solidify, their forms becoming whole once more. When Seraphina emerged, the scarf around her neck had transformed. Its patterns now reflected the countless lives she had touched, their stories woven into its threads. The boy with golden eyes approached her, a rare smile on his face. "You did it," he said simply. Seraphina nodded, feeling both exhausted and exhilarated. She looked back at the cube, now shining steadily in the sky. "It's not just a nexus," she said. "It's a reminder that even in chaos, there's beauty in connection." As the crowd began to disperse, returning to their respective realities, Seraphina and her companion stood together, ready to face the next step in their journey. The Cube of Convergence had tested her resolve and deepened her understanding of what it meant to be a weaver. But she knew this was only the beginning. The worlds awaited her touch, and the threads of fate continued to call. The Origami Sage. As the light from the Cube of Convergence faded, Seraphina and her companion found themselves in a serene and dimly lit chamber. The air was thick with a sense of timelessness, and the floor beneath them glimmered faintly, as if it were made of stardust. At the center of the room sat a figure unlike any she had seen before, a being composed entirely of folded paper, its edges sharp yet delicate, its form glowing softly from within. The figure sat cross-legged in meditative stillness, its serene face shaped by intricate folds. Despite its paper nature, it radiated a quiet wisdom, and the air around it seemed to hum with purpose. Seraphina hesitated, unsure whether to speak. The boy with golden eyes leaned closer and whispered, "This is the Origami Sage. They are the keeper of the final fold, the moment where all paths converge. Few have ever sought their guidance." The sage's folded head tilted slightly toward her, as if acknowledging her presence. Its voice resonated in the chamber, gentle yet resonant, like the rustling of parchment. "Welcome, Weaver. You have crossed the realms and mended the threads of existence, yet you come seeking something more." Seraphina stepped forward, clutching her scarf as its threads rippled with a faint glow. "I've followed the paths, woven the stories, and brought balance where I could, but I still don't understand. What is my purpose in all of this? Why was I chosen to carry this scarf?" The sage's paper form shifted slightly, unfolding and refolding itself as it stood gracefully. "Purpose is not given, child. It is discovered. Your scarf, a tapestry of the worlds you've touched, is a reflection of who you are. Yet even the weaver must one day decide. Will you continue to repair the fractures of existence, or will you create something entirely new?" Seraphina frowned, the weight of the sage's words sinking in. "Create something new? You mean unravel everything?" The sage nodded, its folds casting soft shadows. "To weave is to preserve. To create is to risk. Each thread carries its own resonance, and in binding them together, you have given them harmony. But the question remains, are you satisfied with harmony, or will you dare to weave a new pattern?" The boy with golden eyes stepped forward, his expression cautious. "But wouldn't unraveling the existing threads destroy the balance she's worked so hard to restore?" The sage turned its folded head toward him, a faint smile creasing its paper lips. "Destruction and creation are two sides of the same fold, child. True wisdom lies in knowing when to preserve and when to let go." Seraphina felt the scarf grow warm against her neck, as if urging her to choose. She looked at the sage, her voice steady despite her uncertainty. "If I choose to create, what happens to the worlds I've already mended?" The sage extended a delicate paper hand, its glow illuminating the threads of her scarf. "They do not disappear, they evolve. Creation is not abandonment, Weaver. It is a gift, a chance for new stories to emerge." For a moment, the chamber was silent, save for the faint rustling of the sage's form. Seraphina closed her eyes, thinking of the lives she had touched, the stories she had woven, and the dreams she had seen in the cube. The threads of her scarf vibrated gently, as if they too awaited her decision. Finally she opened her eyes and met the sage's glowing gaze. "I will create," she said firmly, "not to destroy what is, but to give it a chance to become something greater." The sage's form shimmered, its folds shifting into a new, more intricate pattern. "Then you are ready, Weaver. Step forward and begin the final fold." As Seraphina approached, the sage's glowing form enveloped her in light. The threads of her scarf unraveled completely, swirling around her like a golden storm. In that moment, she felt the weight of every story, every thread, every possibility. And with a deep breath, she reached out, guiding the threads into a new pattern, a tapestry unlike any that had come before. The chamber erupted in light, the threads weaving themselves into a vast, radiant creation that extended beyond the room, touching every corner of existence. The Origami Sage bowed slightly, its form folding into a smaller, simpler shape as its work was complete. When the light subsided, Seraphina stood at the center of a newly woven reality. The boy with golden eyes smiled at her, his voice filled with awe. "You did it. You created something entirely new." Seraphina looked at the scarf, now transformed into a flowing mantle of light, its threads shimmering with infinite possibilities. She smiled, her heart filled with a sense of purpose she had never known. Her journey was far from over, but now she knew she was not just a weaver. She was a creator, a storyteller, and the architect of worlds yet to come.